This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
It is our chance to wrap up Sunday number 5 of the NFL season. Mike Tirico, Tony Dungy, wrapping up his birthday that he got to spend with us on Sunday.
What about me?
Very unfortunate for Tony. I'm getting to you. It's not your birthday. If it was your birthday, I'd move you second. Mike Florio and, of course, Rodney Harrison placed fourth. Let's hit the topics. In the late afternoon game of Green Bay and Dallas was dominated by Green Bay early. Dallas came back to make it a game. A lot of penalties, over 20 flags in the game. But the bigger scenario now is Dallas. They looked so good this time last week. What's happened to the Cowboys the last 2 Sundays?
Well, I really think it's this. The Cowboys look great when their offensive line is dominating. When they're running the football for 150 yards plus, Dak is throwing play-action passes, they're dominating the time of possession, their defense gets the lead, they can tee off and rush the passer. But when they aren't doing that, when they're playing even games and they have to throw 28, 30, 35 passes, they're not the same team.
Or also when they fall behind. You fall behind, you change everything. And I don't think that offense is accustomed to playing from behind and closing those gaps. And they actually played fairly well once they dug the deep hole, but obviously not well enough.
I just think if you're Dallas, you have to go back to what your bread and butter is, and that's running the football. And we talk about it all the time. Run the football, you establish the physicality, you establish confidence, and then everything sets up off that. If you look at Dallas defensively, you go back to the playoff last year. They couldn't stop the run. They can't stop the run. They have to be able to stop the run.
They're built to play ahead, and in New Orleans 2 weeks ago, they couldn't run the ball. They tried, they couldn't. This week, didn't have much success early, had to get away from it because they were behind. They're not the same team when they don't power run that ball.
And part of that is no Tyron Smith, who injured his ankle towards the very end of the game last Sunday night. And then La'el Collins, the opposite tackle, gets hurt. So they had an undrafted free agent at right tackle as they went through the end of that game. And that will certainly change how Dallas looks if those are injuries they have to deal with for a while.
And I think a big part of it, too, is if you look at Dak, he's holding on to the ball a lot longer. Instead of getting rid of the ball, he's holding on to the ball. He wants the big play all the time instead of just getting the ball out quickly and moving the chains.
And I think some of these teams, when they come out with a great start, they start to believe maybe more than they should, and next thing you know, you're back down to earth.
Well, and part of it, I still go back to training camp. I think in September, we don't know who's good. A team plays well, wins a game, they're going to be great, but we find out the team they were playing was terrible, like Miami. And some of these games Dallas had early.
Well, Dallas had the Giants with Eli, Miami, and Washington as they built that 3-0 record. Now that they've played 2 teams that we've seen look pretty good through that first month of the season, like you said, in New Orleans and now Green Bay. And Rodney, to your point with Green Bay, which is the flip of this, here are the Packers with Aaron Rodgers still having the ability to do all the stuff we've come to love, plus a running game and a defense that makes you feel a little bit different about Green Bay right now.
It does, and think about it, Mike. He's still learning the offense. He's not 100% comfortable in his offense. Aaron Rodgers, each week it seems like they're getting better in different areas, but he's still not 100% comfortable in his offense.
And it was important for them to get it done today without receiver Devontae Adams,
yeah,
right? Because
exactly.
I had no faith in them without Adams because Adams was so key to the offense, whether they're throwing it to him or using him as a decoy so other guys can get open.
Yeah, they played without his number 1 receiver on the road and put up 34 points. That's a good sign.
Everybody in the NFC North is over 500. Green Bay hosts Detroit on Monday night. That'll be a pretty important game. The Bears lost over in London to Oakland, so they're sitting at 3-2. The Vikings got things back. Everything's okay in Minnesota now, so life is good. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but they're also 3-2, so some fun stuff in the NFC North.
Good division.
Question 2 is probably the birthday boy.
Question 2 is my question. Do you think the Saints are the best team in the NFC?
No, I think it's the Green Bay Packers for the same reasons we just talked about. Their ability to run the ball. Aaron Rodgers. I'm not taking Teddy Bridgewater over Aaron Rodgers. Heck, I might not even take Drew Brees over Aaron Rodgers. He does so many magical things with the ball in his hands. And that defense, when you got 2 pass rushers, you got very athletic, hungry defensive backs, I like Green Bay.
I like the Saints, though, and this is Coach of the Year type stuff from Sean Payton. When you look at what he's done the last 3 weeks at Seattle, beating Dallas, and then beating a Buccaneers team that just put 55 on the board against the L.A. Rams last weekend. These are games that we thought maybe they'd be 1-2 without Drew Brees. But here they are, 3-0 without Brees. He'll be back in 3 weeks most likely. But as long as Peyton's there, drawing up the offense the way that he is, this team's going to be right in the thick of things.
Well, should there be some Executive of the Year conversation, too? Because they have the cap room, made the space and the decision. Let's pay Teddy Bridgewater higher than any other backup. And in a league where we're, about a third of the way through the season, 5 of the 17 weeks gone, we've seen about a third of the teams have to use a second quarterback, whether by decision or injury. And the teams that have come out of that pretty well right now are Carolina, which we can discuss later, and New Orleans, because Bridgewater's fit right in, Tony.
Yeah, and I'm going to make my case for New Orleans. They go out to L.A. and lose a game in which Drew Brees gets hurt.
Right.
And they get a touchdown taken off the board.
That's right.
They lose that game.
Exactly.
Right. Then they come back, go to Seattle with Teddy Bridgewater, beat Seattle, who we think is pretty good. Come home and beat Dallas, who we thought was pretty good. And then, as Mike said, beat Tampa, who just shellacked the Rams.
In LA.
So they played 3 pretty good teams with their backup quarterback. I think they're in good shape because I love their defense.
All the points that you made are legitimate. The only thing, and we know about Cam Jordan and Sheldon Rankins, those guys up front, but you think about how when they struggle, it's the secondary.
Yeah.
And the secondary is so up and down. Eli Apple, Marshawn Lattimore, just 2 guys that I can't trust on a consistent basis, and that's the reason why I think Green Bay is the better team.
You know who New Orleans plays here in the next couple of weeks? They go to Jacksonville. So is Gardner Minshew going to put up big numbers against them? And they're going to be a throw ball game. Chicago, will Trubisky be back by then? And then Arizona. So they have a chance here to ride this Breeze thing out, maybe 6-0, maybe 5-1. And they would have signed for that if they knew that that's what they were coming up against. So I would throw Seattle into this conversation of the best teams in the NFC. Watching them in person, what John Schneider's done, the GM there with Pete Carroll, you've got a guy you're building around in Russell Wilson. And it's so hard to win 2 different ways. And the personality of that team and Russell's rookie deal was the Legion of Boom. Now you look at their secondary, and I'm getting ready to call the game on radio, it's the Legion of Whom. You don't know who it is. Tedrick Thompson's out there, the guy who was laying on the ground and made the big play. McDougal's playing safety. You don't necessarily know who those guys are.
Theo Griffin,
Yeah, they're not, but they're playing a great complementary brand of ball, and they've put the offensive pieces around Russell Wilson. They've got big receivers. They like what they're doing. Are they the best? I don't know, but they feel like they've got things back going in the right direction.
No, they're playing well with a young team now around Russell Wilson. It was veteran defensive players. Now it's all these young, energetic guys.
And we talk a lot about MVP candidates. You want Christian McCaffrey on the list. Russell Wilson needs to be on the list. He definitely needs to be on the list. He was almost with a perfect passer rating on Thursday night in that game against the Rams, and he's had a great season start to finish.
Can I share something Tony and I were talking about in the viewing room? We watched the first half of the Sunday night game. You know, Russell Wilson's probably the guy at the point of this. Aaron Rodgers certainly has been doing it. But we talk about Mahomes, and now we start watching Deshaun Watson, who got you out of your seats a few times. Mayfield, who's doing it. Josh Allen in Buffalo.
Gardner
Minshew. These young quarterbacks who are making these exciting throws on the run are re-energizing the league. We have moved away from that group of, look, we still have Brady, who's terrific. I know Roethlisberger and Breeze are hurt. Phillip Rivers, who we'll see on Sunday night. We've still got those veteran guys who've been around for a long time. But, Tony, the way these young guys are being allowed to play impacts why we're seeing young guys come in and do well in year 1, 2, and 3.
I really like it. When I came in the league, when I was coaching, you'd have these young quarterbacks, and they'd sit for a while, and they've got to learn how to be efficient in the pocket. These coaches now are saying, hey, this is what they did in college. I'm going to take Kyler Murray and let him run his offense. Yep. And it's exciting, and it's utilizing these guys.
And really think about just how much pressure it puts on a defense when you have these athletic quarterbacks. Now, the day of the statue quarterback sitting back there, eventually when Brady's gone, that's going to be gone. As a team, you're going to want to go in and grab a guy that can move around, that's smart, and that can make plays with his legs.
Think of the game-winning touchdown Seattle had on Thursday night. Aqib Talib, who's a good defensive player in this league and has seen it all, he was in an absolute pickle. Russell Wilson scrambles. He's coming towards him. You got to come to tackle him because he's going to run in the end zone.
He's thick, too.
And as soon as he takes 2 or 3 steps, boom, lofts it over him. Chris Carson juggles and catches.
Running to your left and put it up in the corner of the end zone for Tyler Lockett after avoiding 4 people on the rush. Just fantastic stuff. And it does. It energizes your team.
And I think as time goes by, too, more and more kids who see how the quarterback position is being played and they try to mimic it. And I know it drives some dads crazy like Chris Sims, but you're going to see quarterbacks coming up through the ranks who try to play that way.
Mike, they're doing that right now. My son is a sophomore. He plays on the varsity level, and you see these guys trying that right now. I've seen a kid go and look one way and the other way and throwing his sidearm. They're definitely mimicking these guys.
Number 3.
Number 3. Mike, this one's for you. Did your guy John Gruden have something going in Oakland?
My God. Their young players are playing quite well. They really have gotten their young guys to start playing well and together. That's a huge win for them to go over there, especially that they're playing in the soccer stadium, Tottenham Stadium. Vontaze Burfict gets a red card for the rest of the year, essentially with the season-long suspension, and while he's over there. So they're trying to appeal that and put all that together. And they had heard all the time, every week, about how could you trade Khalil Mack and all of that stuff. Well, the draft picks they've gotten back in return so far have played well. And here are the Raiders sitting at 3-2. Obviously, we're nowhere in this conversation, but they have a better record than most of the rest of the teams in the AFC. It's pretty surprising to see. And the way they're doing it, they've stayed patient with the run, which has been the key to winning.
And that AFC is wide open. You can get in and make some noise in the playoffs. I don't know. We're talking, who is the third best team in the AFC? I don't know.
And, we were stunned last week by what the Buccaneers did to the Rams in L.A., but we saw the Raiders go into Indianapolis, and that was a game I don't think anybody expected the Raiders to win. So they have that one, and now they add the Bears to it, and they're 3-2, and they will be in second place in that division. And who knows where they go from here?
I don't know. I look at the Raiders, man, and I'm really surprised. I like what I see on film. They play with a lot of energy. You talked about them running the ball, physical. They have a really good young running back. The only question I have with the Raiders is Derek Carr. Last year I called him the most overrated quarterback in the league, and I'm not a big fan. I just think in critical moments that he cannot make the key passes down the field. Yeah, those short intermediate passes he's really good at. He was good at that today. But for the long term, I'm not a big fan.
To Tony's point, if I gave you Kansas City and New England, I think we all agree that they are the 2 best teams in the AFC. Whoever you pick is the 3rd best team. You want to pick Buffalo, you want to pick Houston, you want to say the Raiders, whatever you want to do. You can go 10 deep in the NFC before you say there's a better AFC team. That tells you how deep the NFC is right now and how wide open, to Tony's point, the AFC is 5 weeks into the season.
And New England and Kansas City aren't without flaws. We've seen some of their flaws show up.
You think New England has flaws?
New England has a lot of flaws.
Their offensive line is not the same. And you look at them the last couple of weeks, it seems like the injuries are starting to pile up. You look at Brady. Brady's sitting behind that offensive line, and he's not just looking downfield. He's looking and trying to figure out. Normally when we see Brady and their offensive line is healthy, he's sitting back there, he's picking the defense apart. He's definitely paying attention to that offensive line.
We've said this is a great defense, but let's wait until they play Kansas City or play some of these better NFC teams before we anoint this defense as being great.
They play the Giants and Jets next 2 games, so the Patriots will be probably untested in 7-0 when we get to Week 8.
And speaking of defense, who has the best defense in the league? And I'll start with Mike.
I want to say the Bears, but look at what happened to the Bears today. So I don't know who it is right now. I mean, you can make a case for a bunch of different teams. The Packers defense early in a game looks pretty good, but then they start to fall apart. I think I got to stick with the Patriots just because their offense has sputtered so much this year. Their defense has been dominant, and even though today it was a little bit more difficult than it had been, the defense still put the clamps on and allowed the Patriots to get a big win.
That's a good question. It really is.
You want me to answer it for you, Mike? Because I already
go.
know what the answer is.
Okay.
It's not the Patriots. Right. It's the Bears. And you saw the impact that Akeem Hicks had when he got hurt, when he went out.
That's right.
You get one of the most dominant players up front that is not pushing the pocket. It's affecting the linebackers. It's affecting the safety. But you get the Bears healthy, I don't care who their quarterback is. This is still the best defense in the league.
But they didn't have them last week, and they completely throttled the Vikings. I think they were surprised today how aggressive the Raiders were with Khalil Mack. Physical. And I don't know that becomes the blueprint for dealing with Khalil Mack, but they were very physical with him.
I'll throw out one that may not be best, but is worthy of conversation. Buffalo.
Buffalo's playing well.
Their defense shows up everywhere against different types of teams, road, home. They have kept them in the game.
And you're right. They aren't playing with the benefit of a high-scoring offense.
No. When Mr. Excitement Josh Allen's running around and we're cueing circus music and he's throwing the ball all over.
That's a good call.
They're keeping him in there.
Good
so
call.
Sean McDermott doing a great job with their defense.
I know you're a Minnesota Viking fan. You're off the... I'm just wondering.
Well, their defense is good. It's just not great. It's good. It's good enough to go 9-7.
I love it.
Which is what the best case scenario.
I can feel Florio wince every time Rodney says that. All right, here we go. Speed round questions. Rodney, you first. Is Christian McCaffrey the best non-quarterback so far in the league?
I think he's the best running back in the league. Yes.
Would you vote for him for MVP right now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Johnny?
He's pretty good. I'm not going to say best because there's some guys out there who make some things happen at other positions, but he touches the ball a lot. They're using him well. He's been the most productive.
The more we see him do, the more confused I am by that Thursday night game against the Buccaneers, where they just quit using him. Yeah. And Cam Newton was clearly not himself, and they just quit using McCaffrey.
It's an interesting scenario there because they're 3-0 without Cam, and McCaffrey's been carrying the team. We didn't hear much about Cam this past week, by the way, and any updates on his injury.
No Cabernet, no cigars.
But think about Cam. Every time we talk about Cam, it's always something. It's always something with Cam. When you get this young kid, he's low maintenance. You don't have to worry about him. You just go up in there, install a game plan and allow him to play. But every time we're talking about Cam Newton, it's always something, a special offense, it's just too much at times.
You're making a good point because there's a certain amount of angst that goes into it. How much do we use him? Are we using him too much? Are we putting him at risk of injury? Are we not doing enough? With Kyle Allen, you go play football, you run your offense, and you don't worry about it.
They go to Tampa, then get a week off. It'd be very interesting if they win and they get to 4-0 without Cam, get to the bye week.
You got to let it ride, Mike. You got to let it ride.
100%. The 100% rule. Cam Newton will play when he's 100%. Yeah, he'll be 100% when Kyle Allen's not getting it done anymore.
Do you believe Mike Florio in anyone in the AFC North?
I believe in the Browns just because we've seen them play.
Stop listening to that sentence for a second.
I know. I never thought I'd say it again in my lifetime.
It's great.
But, the Ravens, I think they thought they were going to have a special season based on the first 2 weeks, and they got the balloon popped in Kansas City, and they've been struggling to kind of get right again. But we saw the Browns go there and win. We've seen the Browns hang tough with the Rams, even though they lost the game. And I think they're going to look pretty good on Monday night in San Francisco.
It's okay to say no, Coach.
I don't think there's a great team in that division. I think the Browns are an explosive team that's going to be up and down. I don't think they're a great team.
I agree.
They may be the best team in the division. I don't think they're great.
I don't believe in any of these teams right now. I thought I believed in the Ravens, but their defense has regressed.
And losing Tony Jefferson to an ACL on Sunday, that will impact that defense significantly.
He's definitely an X factor on that defense.
Because a lot of what they do starts in the back end there. Is that Kumbaya moment in Minnesota, has that now arrived? Is everybody happy because there was 300 yards passing and the podcast makeup with Kirk Cousins and Adam
happy
Thielen?
Because the balls were on target this week. If the balls are on target next week, they'll all be happy. If they're off target a little bit, there's going to be frustration.
It's exactly what Adam Thielen said last week. When we can't run for 180 yards, we have to be able to throw. So it's fine until the next time they run into a brick wall and Dalvin Cook can't do what he did like last week against Chicago. Will they be able to move the ball through the air, and will the frustration come out again? They won, so everything's fine. And it's fine until they have a game like they had last week.
You'll see the season going up and down. The most important thing is that locker room sticking tight. And you need leaders like Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen and those guys sticking together, not, taking shots at one another.
And that's what Dalvin Cook told me after the game. I said, was there somebody who stood up and said, we got to pull together? He said, no. We all knew that the noise was out there, you can't run from it, and everybody pulled together, and we feel closer because of what we went through.
And we're not too far away from including Dalvin Cook in that Christian McCaffrey conversation that we had earlier.
That's
the
true.
best non-quarterback in the
yeah.
league so far.
The quietest 218 yards from scrimmage that I can ever remember, because all we're talking about, and rightfully so, Cousins and Thielen and Diggs.
You got a pleasant surprise as a player? Any player that's been a pleasant surprise to you guys thus far this year as we wrap up?
I mean, Shaq Barrett in Tampa with 9 sacks so far.
Very good.
I don't know. Did he have any today? I don't even know. We didn't hear his name, so we assume no sacks.
But he's been a good surprise and played really well this first month.
And maybe this doesn't matter, but Justin Simmons, the free safety for the Broncos, he's made some plays watching film. You see him.
Tony's pondering.
I'm trying to think if there's any other real surprise player that's caught my eye. A lot of the guys you expect plays from
have made those plays so far.
But Shaq Barrett, I would say, is the biggest surprise.
That's a great one, especially 9 sacks. Yeah. He did not have a sack on Sunday. But we did have schnitzel on Sunday for dinner.
It was good.
What's schnitzel?
It's Oktoberfest, so it's German. It's a thematic thing.
Did you eat the chicken? Did you eat the chicken tonight?
What chicken? that little thing wasn't chicken, was it?
No, it's
Schnitzel.
What is it?
For more of Rodney's cooking show, tune in next time.
What the heck is schnitzel?
When we recap the NFL. Rodney's new
like
podcast will be What the Heck is Schnitzel?
I don't know about no schnitzel.
See you on Football Night in America next Sunday.
They skipped October.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.